Hello wonderful people, you're welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. So today we'll be making a bustier shirt. Okay, that is a princess dad bustier shirt. It's a shirt but it's going to have a bustier, and these are the fabric I need. I have this lace for designing it, and the main fabric, then my lining fabric, and buttons, of course, since it will be having, since it's a shirt, and these are the buttons. Let's get started. But before we do that, I say a very big welcome to you, all my subscribers. Thank you for always coming back. And if you're new to this channel, you are very much welcome. Join this wonderful family by subscribing. It is free. Just hit on the subscribe button below the video and turn on the bell beside it. Turn all notifications so that whenever I upload a new video, you'll be among those that will be notified. Thank you for doing that. So let's get started. So now I'll put everything aside and we'll start drafting. So I'll draft on my lining piece so that it will be very clear. I can mark the chalk very well on it. So now I'll fold my fabric, which is the lining, and I will not just fold anyhow. I'll be using the biggest round measurement. So since I'm making it the top part of the dress, which is a half length, the biggest part is the bust circumference. That is the largest measurement. There is the bust circumference. So this bust circumference, you divide it by 4, then add at least 6 inches. Okay, now this 6 inches is for the allowance for joining your placket. We're making a shirt, so it's going to have placket, that is buttonhole and the button placket. Okay, then we'll be cutting it out, that is the darts will be cut out since it is a bustier. Then we'll be sewing lining to it. We also need allowance for that and the seam allowance. So altogether I'm using 6 inches extra. So now it depends on the width of the dart to be cutting out. So the dart I'll be cutting out to be 3 inches, 2 inches for the outer side and 1 inch for the inner side. So you will see all this. Okay, so I have actually made videos on princess dart bustier, but since this one will be shirt pattern or shirt set style, that is why I'm making it again. So like I said, the bust circumference divided by 4 plus at least 6 inches. At least, that is what I use. At least 6 inches. Here the bust circumference is 40 inches. Divided by 4, that is 10 inches. Then I'll add at least 6 inches. So it shouldn't be less than 6 inches. So I'll show you the reason for that. So 10 divided by, that is 40 divided by 4, 10 plus 6, that is 16. So I'll just measure 17 just to have a space to cut out my pattern from. So I'm drafting directly on the lining. So like I said, I will mark as 17. So this is 17. So I'm folding from this point. So that's why I marked it. It's from this point I will then fold my fabric. Okay, so this is it, like this. Okay, so I have 17. So after folding it, still measure it to be sure you have folded correctly. So this is it. So I have 17. Okay, and here I would pin it down so that it doesn't move away from that point. So this is what I need. This is what I need. So I'm going to take the length of the top. Okay, but before doing that, I'll mark out 1 inch at the starting point here. That I'll mark out 1 inch, and the 1 inch is for the space where I would mark my shoulder seam allowance. And it also helps to give us an even starting point, because sometimes when you fold your fabric, it will not be equal at this side. So it's always good to mark out a starting point. Okay, so I'll draw my line. So here it is. So having marked this point, from here now I'll place the length of the top. Okay, so the length, that is the waist point, is at 18, but I'll add 2 inches. So I've explained why I do this in my previous videos. I've explained why you need to add the extra. Since you're making a bustier, sometimes when you join, it might not align. it might not be equal at the lower part. So you have enough space where you take your actual measurement, then you trim out the rest, okay? So, and sometimes it aligns depending on the bust measurement of the person and the curve you are making, okay? I've also made a video on how to make it align, even if it's not 100%, but at least you get it being almost equal. Then you won't have one side being way more than the other side. At least it will be equal, but always add this allowance, it is necessary. So I'm taking 2 inches extra and I'll mark that. That is 20. So having done this, I just repeated the point here again so I can actually connect to have a straight line. So this is actually what I need for my shirt part of the dress, okay, the top part. So I can just go ahead and cut this out so I can just have this to work with. So before I cut it out, in order not to forget, we're going to mark out 1/2 inch from this side. So that 1/2 inch is for joining the buttonhole and the button placket, okay? So you have to mark it out before you start placing your measurements. So don't forget that. So I've also taught how to make shirts, but because this is a bustier, we're going to this one is a bit different, and following the style we are making is a bit different, okay? So I'm going to just mark out this 1/2 inch because we'll be joining the plackets later on. So this is it. Now I'll just cut the rest of the fabric out so that we'll work with this, okay? So this is what I need for the top part. So now I'll place the rest of the vertical measurement, which is the bust point and the under bust point, okay? So the bust point is 11 inches and the under bust point is 15 inches, is at 15 inches, okay? So I'm just going to repeat the points here so that I would connect to have my straight lines. So here it is. We have the bust point here, the under bust, and the waist, okay? So now I'm going to place the shoulder measurement. The shoulder measurement is 14 inches divided by 2, that is 7 inches. But because I'll be adding sleeve, I'll add 1/2 inch for the sleeve, for joining the sleeve. That is 7.5, okay? And I'll mark that. Then for the neckline, this is a shirt, so the neckline would actually be small. So the best way to go about it is to measure the person's round neck, just like you can see on the screen. Just measure the person's round neck and you divide that by 6 inches, okay? So by the time you divide by 6 inches, whatever you get as your answer is what you use for your neck width. Then you add 1/2 inch to that and use it for your neck depth, okay? But in the situation whereby you couldn't measure the person's round neck, just use the standard measurement, which is 3 by 3. 3 inches for the width and 3 inches for the depth. So in this case, the person's round neck measurement is 16. Divide that by 6, I have 2.6, but I'll be using 2.5, okay? Because I'll still be joining a collar to it. So I'll use 2.5. So if I add 1/2 inch to 2.5, that will give me 3 inches. So I'll use that for the depth. So I hope this is clear. Okay, so this is the neck depth here. And for the width I have 2.5. So whatever measurement you're placing should be after this 1/2 inch. That is why I marked it out, okay? So whatever measurement should come from after the 1/2 inch. So here is my 2.5 and this is the neck line, okay? So we're going to just make it round. Then for the back, the width remains the same, then the depth for the back is 1 inch, okay? So here you just make your neck line, just let it be round, okay? So just make it round. So this is okay. So having done this, the next thing is to take our armhole depth. Okay, so remember you have to come down by 1 inch for your shoulder slope. So from this shoulder measurement, you step down by 1 inch and you connect it to the neck width. Okay, so for the armhole depth, I'm using the same measurement I have here, that is 7.5. Okay, then I'll add half inch to read for ease, which is 8 inches. So I'll mark it. So also measure here to be sure you have the same measurement with this. Okay, then you connect. So now this is the chest line or the upper bust line. Okay, so when you have done this, now it's time for us to mark our armhole curve. So before you mark your armhole curve, you're going to place your bust circumference divided by 4 on this line. So in this case it is 10 inches. So here is the bust circumference divided by 4. You mark it. Then for the front armhole, which is usually deeper than the back armhole, you would measure what you have here. Okay, I have 8 inches. You mark the midpoint. By the time you have marked the midpoint, you come in by either half inch or 0.75. So I'll use half inch. Then I'll connect it to this shoulder measure, to this shoulder point. Okay, where you step down by your shoulder slope. So this is it. So when you have done this, now you just create your armhole by connecting from this point to this point. So this is your armhole curve. Okay, so when you have created your armhole like this, the next thing now is to place our darts. So for the dart, you need to know the nipple to nipple measurement or the bust span. Okay, it's called the bust span, which is the nipple to nipple measurement. So in this case, the nipple to nipple is 8 inches divided by 2, that is 4. So but you add half inch because we'll be cutting it out. So you need the half inch to join the center part to the side. Okay, so I'll be taking 4.5. So I'll mark 4.5 and I'll mark it from the bust point, the under bust point to the waist point. And remember, you are marking from after the half inch. Okay, you're marking from after this point. So after marking, you just connect with your ruler. So I want to be sure that I have placed the right measurement here. Okay, it's correct. So just connect with your ruler. And this is what we have. So now you step down by 1 inch from the bust point. Step down by 1 inch. You want to create the cup. Then you come to the under bust. At this side, I'm taking 2 inches. So I've explained bustier and how to place your darts. Okay, in my previous videos, I'll be dropping the links in the description box. So for this bust measurement, I'm using 2 inches on this side and 1 inch here. The bust is 40 inches. Okay, so whereby you have a smaller bust, you can use 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side. Okay, whereby the person has a very big bust, you can still use 2 inches on this side, 1 inch on this side. Then on this side you come down a little bit so that the cup will be big enough to accommodate the bust. I have explained that in my previous video. So now I'll just, first of all, I would connect this straight and connect this. Then I would connect my curve, that is, I'll make my curve from this point, please, from the under bust point to this 1 inch step down. Forget the extra marks you're seeing. Then at this side, you just connect, not necessarily curving, just connect. Okay, So I hope this is clear. So we have settled our dart for this side. Now is now the princess dart, or the armhole side, armhole dart side. So what you do to create your armhole here, just measure the armhole curve. You measure the armhole curve. Here I have 10 inches, so you find the half of it, which will be 5 inches. So the armhole curve is 10 inches, the half of it is 5. Here it is. Okay, so when you have gotten the half of your armhole curve, just connect it to the bust points. Just connect it to the bust points. Okay, like so. Then on this line, step up by 1 inch, just like you did here. Here you are now stepping up by 1 inch, so you mark it. Then at this point where you have the half of your armhole curve, you mark 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side. From here, like so, you mark 1 inch on this side, and from here you mark 1 inch on this side. Okay, having done this, you now connect it to this 1 inch step up, like so. So the essence of doing all this is to have a nice cup that will not be pointy at the nipple there. So this is it. Now you see the mark we have here and here, just connect them together with a curve to eliminate this pointy edge. Okay, so just connect your curve ruler like so, and you mark. So what it will actually do is just to eliminate that pointy edge. Okay, so if you connect correctly, you should have it looking like this. This point is no longer there, so this is where I'll be cutting out from. Okay, so I hope you can see the curve like so. So now, having gotten to this level, the next thing is to replace this dart, because we'll be cutting out this dart. By the time you cut out the dart and you join this part to this part, this is what you get. You see that this part is longer than this part. Okay, so sometimes if you don't do that, is why you don't have it being equal. If you don't actually place your replacement very well, so you can see by the time I place it this way to join, you see that this side is longer than this side. So you need to replace this dart that you'll be cutting out. Okay, you need to replace it. So what I took here was 1 inch and 1 inch, 2 inches. So I'll just step up by that 2 inches, that I'll extend this by the 2 inches. Okay, then this dart will be cutting out. You also need to replace it on this side, because by the time you cut it out, if you don't replace it, you'll be reducing your measurement. Your measurement will become short, so you replace the 2 inches here as well. So after replacing the 2 inches, you now connect from this point to this point, and that will give you a new armhole curve. Okay, that will give you a new armhole curve. Here it is. So this is armhole curve we're making use of now. So by the time we join the two, it would align. Okay, so I'm just trying to make it okay. So this is actually what we have. So having gotten to this stage, the next thing is to place the rest of our round measurement. That is the horizontal measurements. So here we already have the bust measurement, which is the same for this side. Now we come to the under bust. The under bust circumference is 35 inches divided by 4, that is 8.75. So on my tape, this is 8.75, very close to 9. I would just mark it from after the half inch. So this is it. I'll just make a slight point there. Okay, then I will replace the dart, 2 inches on this side and 1 inch here, that is 3 inches. I will just replace it from that point. I'll add my dart replacement, then I'll add my seam allowance, which I've not added here, so I'll do that. I'm using 2 inches for the seam allowance. In these 2 inches, we need half inch to join this side to this side and half inch to turn our lining with the main fabric. So always add enough allowance. So I'll use 2 inches, or let me use 2.5. Okay, let me use 2.5. It's better to have excess than having shortage. 2.5. Then you come to the waist, you do the same thing. The waist divided by 4 is 9.75. So I'll first of all place my 9.75, which is close to 10, from after the half inch. This is it. Replace my 3 inches dart. This is it, and I add 2.5 for my seam allowance, and that is it. Okay, so by the time I finish joining and setting in my lining, I'll be left with about 1.5 inch allowance. So now I'm connecting, and here it is. Okay, so this is our drafting. So there's one more thing left before we cut: the shoulder seam allowance. Now, like I've always explained in my previous lessons, if you don't add your shoulder seam allowance, by the time you join the front and the back at the shoulder, you'll be reducing your neckline, you'll be reducing your armhole. So always make provision for that by just adding half inch from the neck width here, and you come to this shoulder. Remember, this is the real shoulder now. You also add half inch. So what I'm marking is just half inch. Doesn't matter where I'm marking it from, but what I'm marking is half inch. Then I'll connect it. Connect this one with that one, and you have your shoulder seam allowance for joining the back and the front at the shoulder. Okay, so, and this is just all we need. Now, before cutting, just cross check, make sure you have added everything that need to be added, make sure you have taken all your points, then you just go ahead and cut. So I'll do that now. So this is it. Okay, this is my bustier for the shirt. So having done this, now I'm going to notch the bust point. So it's always necessary you do this. Okay, so always notch your bust point. That would guide you when you are joining it. So just notch it. So have it there. You can notch the under bust as well, though it is very obvious, but you can still just notch. It's very obvious that this is the bust point, the under bust point, I mean. So now I'll be using this to cut the back to make it easy, but the back would not be princess dart. It's just going to be waist dart. Okay, so let me fold my fabric and cut the back. So now, before placing this at the back, you're going to fold away this half inch. So it's just like having zipper allowance. The back here now would not have zipper, so there won't be any zipper allowance. It's a shirt with the buttons in front. So this is the half inch for joining the placket. That is the button placket. So I'm going to fold it away, okay, before placing this to cut the back. So I'm just folding it and then using my pin to hold it down. Okay, so it's just like when you have zipper for the back and there's no zipper on the front. So the zipper allowance would not be cut with the front. So that is why I'm taking it away here, so it will not cut the back with it. Okay, so you're actually going to notch it too. So by the time you transfer to the fabrics that are not marked, you would know that that is the half inch. Okay, so just notching the points. Then let me continue folding it out. So you can either iron it or you just use your pin to hold it, whichever. So you can just iron it down. So this is okay. So I have it out of the way, and this is the actual center front. So I'm going to place it now. Then I also place this one, but we'll be taking away the bust cup because there's no bust at the back, so we'll be taking it away. So I'm just trying to make this part okay. The lining piece is just moving around, so keep it in place with your pin. So I'll just place this one here and I'll pin it down so that it doesn't move around. So when you have this one in place, now you bring the side piece, you also match it up. So you will get it right when this part and this part has met at this point here. So in this way, you have eliminated the bust cup. Okay, so let these two meet at this point here. That is the under bust. Once they have met like this, the bust cup has gone in. Okay, and you have your armhole. So for the front, for the back armhole, remember for the front we came in by 1/2 inch, so the back will not be as deep as that, it has to come out. Okay, so what you simply do is come out by 1/2 inch from this point. Okay, and you connect your armhole for the back. So it's as simple as that. So just connect it like this, connect this point, just connect it to this point. Okay, like so. Then it should go down, so you can actually do this without your French curve. All you need to do is just connect it back to this part and you have your back armhole. Okay, hope you can see the effect. Now for the back dart, I'm saying we are using waist dart and we are taking 1 inch for that dart, so I'm going to place 1 inch here. Okay, so I'm going to add 1 inch for my dart. So the dart is actually a waist dart, so just add 1 inch. When you take your dart, you just balance it up. So just add your 1 inch from every point of this, and this is the dart allowance for the back. Okay, so you just connect it. So with this now you can cut. Then the back neckline as well, so we need to also create the back neckline. For the back neckline, remember I said the depth be 1 inch, so this is our actual shoulder line here. Okay, so just mark it first of all, so that from there you come down by 1 inch for the back width, but the sorry, for the back depth, but the width remains the same. So you just connect like so. Okay, so this is for the back neckline. Just connect it, and now you can add the shoulder seam allowance. Okay, so this is it. So now I'll go ahead and cut it out and I'll have my back. Okay, so this is it. Now I would remove the front so that I can see what I'll have there. So this is where the dart will be getting to. So I'm actually going to place the bust span for the back. So here I'll place the 4 inches. Remember the bust, the nipple to nipple is 8 inches. Okay, so I'm using 8 inches divided by 2. So I'm not adding any allowance here. So I'll just connect it like so. I'll just connect it. Okay. Just connect it. So at this waist point, I'll mark 1/2 inch on both sides. So 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch here. Then I'll connect it to this line. And this is how I'm going to sew the dart. So I'm not cutting it out. Okay. This I'm just going to sew the dart. So I'm just going to also mark my dart on the other side by simply notching these points here. So you can notch the midpoint, you can also notch these two, that is the dart legs. Okay, then with my pin, I'll just mark these points where it's getting to. So I'll just turn it now and connect. Okay, so this is the center line. Just connect it, and I'll connect this one as well. You can still measure it to make sure you have half inch there. Okay, you can still measure. Here is my dart. Okay, so I have it here and here as well. So with this now, I would cut on my main fabric. So the back will just be one piece. Okay, we are not opening it up because it will not be zipper. It is at the front. Would open it up by the time I'm done cutting on the main fabric. So before you cut on the main fabric, make sure you open this side. Okay, make sure you open up this part. This is how it's going to be on the main fabric. Then afterward, we'll then open it, that is, we'll then cut it open at the center for our button. So let me use this now and cut on my main fabric. So I've cut out the main fabrics, okay, and I have them here. So for the back, following the style, the lace will not be at the back. So I've used the lining to just cut it out, exactly what I have here. Then for the front, where I have the lace, I've cut out the main fabric and the lace. Okay, so I would open it up at the center here, which I've already done for the lace. So I'll just open it up at the center where we'll be having our button and button placket. Okay, I'll also mark my fabric to indicate that this is the wrong side, because the back and the front are similar. It's difficult to know which side is which. So by the time you have cut out the edge of your fabric, you should mark it like this to show that that is the back, so that in case you open it up, you won't be confused. Okay, so that is it. So for the lining, there's no need for back and front. So now I would open it up, and I will also cut my wording for padding it. But before doing that, I'll just place my main fabric and the lace together. So this is how we'll have it. Now we'll cut the wording. So I can just keep the lace aside so that it would be easy for me. Okay. After cutting the wording, I can place the lace back. So I have my wording here, and I'm going to just arrange my fabric like so. So the wording will be getting to the under bust. So I can cut with one of these and use it to cut the other one. So the wording will not get to the seam line. That is where you'll be stitching it by the side. And where we'll be having the button plackets, it will not get there as well. So we'll be cutting it to the half inch where we marked initially. Okay, so and then for the length of the wording, it will get to like under the bust, a little bit under the under bust. Okay, a little bit after the under bust, and this is just okay. So you now match it up. You see why I said you should notch your bust point? You match it up at the bust point so you know where the center piece would be as well. So since we are cutting it open, you can use, after cutting this one, to use it to cut for the other one. Okay, so I also like marking the bust point on the wording as well, because by the time you remove it, you'll be able to match it up where it's supposed to be. So now I'll go ahead and cut. And for the armhole area too, the wording would not get to the armhole, so you just shift it a little bit, like about 1 inch, okay, like about 1 inch from the armhole, and you mark it. That's where it will get to. So let's just cut. So you go this way. So you can stop somewhere here and connect it, okay. So you can still shaping it out by the time you turn it. So by the time you turn it and you see what you have there, you can still reduce it, but this is okay. So I'll keep this aside and I'll cut for this. So for this one, you also come down from the neckline because it's not going to get to the neckline. So you can use about 1 inch from the neckline, okay. Yes, let's use 1 inch from the neckline. So this is where it's getting to, okay. So let's cut. So remember I said we're not going to, it's not going to get to this edge, so I'm going to reduce it after cutting this. Or you just fold, if you don't want to waste your wording, just fold at that 1/2 inch, okay. So this is it, so that I don't waste your wording. You fold at that 1/2 inch and you just cut carefully, don't cut on your fabric. So by the time you get to this point, you fold and you cut from that 1 inch, so you can actually mark it so that it can be straight. So now you also cut it here, so you can mark it as well to make it easy for you. Okay, so by the time I remove this, I'm cutting it from here. And this is the bust points on the wording, and here too I have the bust point. So now that it is out, I can easily match it up. I can still match it up without looking or without wasting time, okay. So this is it, I can just match it up and I have it like this. So that's why it is good to notch it or to mark it. So at the back, this is what it should be, okay. This is how we have it. So it's coming this way and we'll have a 1/2 inch. So I'll still reduce it a little bit because I don't want it to get to that, to the button placket. So this is okay. So now I would also cut for the other part or this other side by simply placing this one, the gummy side to the gummy side, okay. Yes, that is the side that is shiny, should face each other, because if you turn it the other way around, you end up cutting two of this. So by the time you're done cutting, also mark the other one at the bust point as well, okay. You do same for this. And you have it. So now we can arrange everything. So you can put this aside. This is the wrong side, okay. So now let's first of all turn it to the right side, place our lace, and now turn it back to the wrong side and place our wording, okay. So after arranging it, this is what you should have, okay. So the button placket and the buttonhole placket will be coming here. So now we'll go ahead and join these two and join these two. Then we'll do same for the lining, okay. So for the lining, we'll go ahead and join the lining separately, then I'll show you how to go about joining it here. Okay, so let me do just that. So you see the reason you need to notch your bust point or you mark it, you're just going to join it together like so. Okay, and you pin. So I've shown how to do this severally on this channel, so I'll just do it quickly for this video not to be too long, or I'll just do it behind camera. So what I usually do is I pin it down. So I just make sure I pin everything down. Then after pinning, I'll go ahead and stitch. So when I'm stitching, I make sure that the side panel is on top. Okay, so I stitch from here. Then when it comes to this one, for the side panel to be on top, you need to start stitching from the lower parts. Okay, for this side panel to be on top while you are stitching. So in this way, you would always have it matching up. Okay, even if not 100%, like I said, it can give you 99%. That is, it will match up at least up to 99%. You won't have one side be way too longer than the other side. So this is simply how I do it. So I'll just go ahead, pin everything down. Yeah, I must pin. Yes, I do that because after pinning it makes it easier, and it makes the fabric cooperate with you. Yes, I use pin to make my fabric cooperate with me. So by the time I have pinned everything down, while I'm stitching, it will be easy. And as I'm stitching, I'll be removing my pin. Okay, so you can see, by the time I'm done pinning, everything will just align. Okay, so I'll go ahead and stitch from the lower part. So you can see it's matching up. I would stitch from the lower part for this one. Then for this other one, I'm going to stitch from this side because the side panel has to be on top while I am stitching. It's going to go this way on my sewing machine, so I don't have to show that. I will just go ahead and do it as I've explained. So if you have been following me on the channel, I have made a video on that. I would leave the link in the description box. I've made a video on how to properly pad your bustier. I also showed, the stitching, the joining of the sides of the side panel to the center panel. So I'll just go ahead and do just that. So I've stitched it, as you can see. Okay, so you can see the bustier. So now I will join the lining. So I tacked the wording down at this side. So I used the matching color thread and you can't even notice it at all. So I just tacked it down so that it will not be flipping over to the other side. Okay, so just little tack, and this is what we have. So now I would notch it. I will notch my seam that is stitched by 1/2 inch. So I'll just notch it. So after notching it, you just open it up and you iron it. Okay, so using my ironing board, I would just place it like this and open it up. Now iron. So if you're afraid of burning the lace, you can just place another fabric on it. Okay, so because of the lace, I'll just place this fabric on it and I would give it a good press. So after opening it up like this, I usually use paper stay to make it remain flat so that it will not close back and start giving the bustier a funny look. So I usually just use paper stay. So this is the visible side. I'll place it just to hold this down. Okay, and I'll iron it. So I've actually done a video on this, how to properly pad your bustier and iron everything. So I'll drop the link to the video in the description box. It's a very detailed video on how to pad your bustier. Okay, so this is just what I do, and here it is. So after ironing this side, okay, so you can see after ironing this side, I'll now turn it again like this and iron the outer part. Okay, so I'll have to cover it because of the lace. If I was using the African print alone, I would have ironed directly on it. So this one is ready. I'll go ahead and iron the other one as well. Okay, so after ironing it, this is what I have. You can see it's looking good now, and at the inside I have it this way. Okay, so now I would sew my lining to it. To sew your lining, all you need to do is turn to the good side, then you get your lining. You would have stitched your lining as well. So the good side of the lining, this is the good side and this is the back. So the good side of the lining to the good side of the main fabric, like so. Okay, and same here, you see this way. Okay, so now I would stitch the side. Okay, so I'm stitching just the side. After stitching the side, I will then turn it. Okay, so I will then turn it in like this. So let's do just that. So I've sewn the lining to it, like I said. So I just stitched this side, then flip it over and top stitched. Okay, so I decided to top stitch because we'll be adding the placket here, and that's what we're doing now. So we would cut the placket, and for the back as well, I have sewn the lining to it and I have sewn my darts. Okay, and giving it a good press as well, and at the back here you can see it's so clean. You hardly see the darts. So that is it. Okay, so I'll just put this aside, and I didn't stitch the neckline. Okay, just to inform you, I didn't close up the neckline with the lining because we'll be adding collar. So that's why I left it open. So I just stitched just the sides. And then for my wording, I actually forgot to tell you that I had to trim it. That was initially. I had to trim, the wording was actually longer than this, so I had to trim it to match up with the armhole, that is the side wording. So in case you noticed it, and actually I forgot to tell you then, that is just what I did. I just reduced the height of the wording. Okay, that's just what I did. So now let's cut the placket. So I'll get my fabric for the placket. So I'll be using this for the placket. So what you will do is this: you can just place it and cut, or you just measure the height. Remember, we still have to trim out 2 inches from here. So I just want to finish everything, then I'll trim out the 2 inches from the lower part, or I'll just take my actual measurement and trim out whatever that is left. Okay, so I have 17 inches here, so I'm going to cut 18 inches just to be on the safe side. Okay, so I have enough from here. So what I'll do is just to even out my fabric, then I would cut. So I'll fold my fabric and I'll mark out 3 inches. Okay, so I need to cut out 3 inches for the placket. So the 3 inches includes the ½ inch for joining to the bodice and the folding. So just cut 3 inches. So I have it here. Now I'm going to just cut it because it is for the two sides. So now this is what I have. I have marked it. This is the wrong side. This is the wrong side. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stitch it this way, the wrong side facing up. Okay, so whichever way you want to place it, but the wrong side should face up, and you are going to stitch like this. Okay, so the good side of the fabric to the wrong side of the bodice like this, so that we'll stitch here. So by time after stitching here, I would now fold it in. Okay, so by the time I fold it in, the good side will be out. So now I have to watch it, because my pattern, the design on the fabric should be going up. So this should be for this side, and this should be for this side, like so. So it should be like this. By the time I join it, remember this is the wrong side, I'm going to just place it this way and stitch, so that after stitching I would turn it in. I'll have it like this. So let me do just that, and I think it will be clearer to you. Remember, we are stitching by ½ inch. We took away ½ inch initially from here, so we're going to stitch by ½ inch. So let me do that. Okay, so I've joined it, and you can see what we have here. Okay, and I also trimmed out the excess that was here and here. So I've trimmed out the excess. The next thing now is to turn it over and give it a good press. So you just flip it over like this, and you iron it down. Okay, so let's do that. So let me just finish with this one. By the time you have folded it over like this, you're not going to fold by ½ inch. Okay, so you can still open it, fold ½ inch, iron it down. So by the time you have folded ½ inch here, what the next thing to do, just measure 1 inch, because the placket will be 1 inch. So you measure 1 inch. Okay, then you fold from that 1 inch. Just fold it over like this. Now push in the seam, this seam, push it in like this. Then you flip this over to cover it at that 1 inch. Okay, so your placket should be 1 inch when you measure it. It should be 1 inch. Okay, so you fold it there. Now you can just give it a good press at that point, or you just pin it down. So I would pin it down, then after folding everything, I would iron it. Okay, so I'll just pin it down at this point, 1 inch, and I'll do the same at this point as well, the lower part. I'll mark my 1 inch and fold it from there, making sure that my seam is inside, so I can cover it. So ½ inch in, and from here 1 inch, you flip it. Okay, so by the time you have turned it, you can still measure to make sure that the placket is 1 inch. So if it's more than 1 inch, you reduce it. Though you can have more than 1 inch, it's a matter of choice. You can actually use 1.5, 1 inch, but at least it should just look good. Okay, then I'll do the same thing at the middle here. Just at that point, I'll fold over. So by the time you're done folding, you then give it a very good press. At this point, then you top stitch. Okay, I'm going to top stitch, and that will be it for the placket. So at the inside, you have it this way, and at the outside, it's like this. So I'm going to do same thing to this. Okay, so I have top stitched it, and then I'm giving it a good press. So this is it. So now I top stitch this side. That is for this particular one, I stitched here and at the edge as well. Why for this one I stitched only here? This is because this is where we'll be having the buttonhole. Why the button will be on this side, okay? So I have the buttons here. The buttons will be on this side. Why the buttonhole will be on this side? So if I'm to put this on my body, this is how it's going to be. So if I turn it, this is how it's going to be on my body, okay? So that is to say that the buttonhole will be by the right, while the button will be by the left. So to just come over like this, because the buttons will be here, and by the time you fix the buttons to this side and the buttonhole is here, this is how it will come. Okay, so the button will be coming from the under and come out to the buttonhole like this. So this is how it is for the female shirt. The button is by this side, while the buttonhole is by this side, the right. Buttonhole right, button left. So I think this is clear. So now I would go ahead to join the back and the front, okay? I will join the back and the front at the shoulder before the collar. Okay, so I will join the back and the front at the shoulder here before the collar and the button and buttonhole, all that. So to join the back and the front is just the normal way we join the back and the front of our dresses, okay? So this is actually the good side of my fabric. Now the good side of the back would be placed on it like so, okay? Then I will pick the shoulder like this. So I'll just pick it this way. So if it were to be ordinary shirt, we'll have the yoke at the back, which we'll use as our facing. So in this case, we are using lining. So by the time you pick it at the shoulder like this, you take the lining of the back panel. This is the lining for the back. You just flip it over. Flip it over like this. This is what I'm doing. So I believe a lot of us already know this, but for the sake of the beginners, I'm doing this. So this is it. Then I'll just flip it over like this to this side. Just flip it over. So by the time you have flipped it over, the next thing to do is just match it up. Match everything up. Match up all the edges. Then you go ahead and stitch by 1/2 inch. So I'll hold it down with my pin and I'll go ahead to stitch by 1/2 inch. So make sure that you match up all the edges, okay, both at the neckline here. Make sure that everything is matching up. So by the time I stitch it, you'll see what we have there. So just hope this is clear. I hope you're understanding it. So you have the lining to lining here and the main fabric to main fabric. So after matching it up, making sure that all the edges are aligned, you just pin it down, then you go ahead and stitch by 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'll just stitch by the 1/2 inch we marked while we were drafting it. Remember, I marked 1/2 inch for the shoulder seam allowance. So I'll do just that. Then I would also repeat the same thing for the other one, and by the time we stitch it, we'll have it looking this way at the shoulder. So let me go ahead and do that, okay? So I've joined it at the shoulder, as you can see, okay, and the inside, this is what we have. So if you haven't subscribed up till now, what are you waiting for? Just hit the subscribe button below. It is absolutely free. You don't pay anything for it. And turn on the bell beside it so that whenever I upload a new video, you'll be among those that will be notified. Okay, so subscribe to be part of this wonderful family. So now we'll proceed. Remember that when I was drafting, I added 2 inches because I explained that whenever I'm making a bustier, I just like adding extra just in case after joining it didn't like match up, because there are sometimes, depending on the bust size you're using, it might not really match up. But luckily this one matched up, but I'll still cut out the 2 inches I added. So the simplest way to do that, just match up your front like this. So it's also it also affects the back as well, because I use the front to cut the back. So I'm just going to minus the 2 inches I used, or you just simply take your measurement, then cut out whatever that is left. So you're just going to place your front like this, okay? Then you measure, take your actual measurement and cut out whatever that is left, okay? Or you can simply minus the 2 inches, but to be at the safe side, just take your measurement. So now that you have joined it at the shoulder, it's now the right time to take it, because you have taken away the shoulder seam allowance you added, okay? So now you will just measure like this, okay? And you can see this is accurate because my under bust measurement is 15 and I have it exactly at the 15 inches, okay? So, and the half length I'm using is 18. So I'll just mark at the 18 and cut out the excess, okay? So let's see what we have there. So I have 2 inches, which is what I added as the extra. So I'll just mark 2 inches from this lower part and cut it out, okay? So I like holding my fabric down with pin so that it will just stay where I want it to stay. So this is it. So this is simply how to go about it. So some people might say, ah, that is waste of fabric, that is waste of time. No, it is not. It is actually good you have excess and trim off than having shortage. I've heard, people complain of that, that after joining, it didn't match up. Some, like maybe the center panel might be longer than the side panel, okay, or whichever one. And at the end, by the time they trim off, they will not have the exact measurement they need. So what with this now, I've taken my exact measurements. Now I can trim off and have an even edge, okay? So is it not better that way? So you can actually add 1 inch. If you don't want to add 2 inches, you can add 1 inch, okay? So I'm cutting out the 2 inches I added, okay? From here. So what I'll simply do now is just connect it and cut it out. So remember to do this before joining the lower parts of your dress or top or blouse. So I'll just cut it out and I'll do same for the back, okay? So make sure you're placing it very well. Make sure this part is aligning as well so that it will be equal. One more thing, please add half inch, the half inch for joining the top to the lower part, okay? So I didn't remember that, but that is okay. I can still take half inch from here and I'll still have nice dress, but please do that. So I'm teaching, I'm just moving forward. So try to add your half inch for joining the upper part to the lower part, and that is okay. So now I'll do same for the back, okay? So you can actually place it this way. So this is your guide. Your back armhole and the front armhole should align here, okay? Then you now cut out what you have for the back, so you can see it, okay? You can now cut it out. So make sure they are aligning. Don't forget, add your half inch. So I'm not adding half inch at the back. I'm just, the front and the back has to be the same, okay? And this is my half length. So I have it here. So please give this video a like, share with your friends, give it a like to encourage me to do more, to bring more content like this for you. So our top is almost ready, but not completely ready. We have to add the sleeve, or we have to sew the sleeve to read. We have to sew the collar, and we have to also make our buttonhole and button as well. Yes, we have to sew our button to it, but I would stop here for now because this video is long already. Yes, it's long already, and I don't want a lot of you to complain that my video is always long. So we'll stop here, and I'll be making another video where I'll show you how to make the collar. Though I have a video on this channel on how to make shirt collar, but the one I'll be making will be very, very simple. Trust me, you after watching that video, you will stick to that method because it will be very, very simple. You know, there are different ways to achieve a thing, and you might know a way, then you discover another way which might be easy, and you go with it. So that is why I will bring that method for you. It's very, very simple. Okay, and for the sleeve, it will be just basic sleeve, then the balloon at the end, just like you can see on the screen. I will also post the video on the lower part. You can see the pocket. I'll show you how to make that pocket. So subscribe if you haven't, turn on the bell. That is the only way you'll be notified of the new videos that will be coming up. So we'll be completing the shirt in another video. Yes, we'll be making our collar. I also be making the lower part. So by the time I make those videos, you'll be notified if you are subscribed and if you have turned on the bell. So please, like I said, give this video a like. Yes, just hit that like button. It will not actually take anything from you, rather it will encourage me to make more videos for you. And thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and I keep praying for you, all my subscribers. God will continue to bless you all for always coming here, for always watching my videos. It's a pleasure bringing these videos to you and see you watch them as well. Thank you, and see you in my next video. Remain blessed.